Welcome to Python Science. My name is Furkan. In the first tutorial, we'll learn how to install Python 3, Jupyter Notebook, and Visual Studio Code into Windows 10 environment. Today, we are going to discuss Python data types and learn string data type. First, I'm going to give brief introduction on PEP 8 guidelines. Then we are going to check which data types Python has. And at the end of this tutorial, you will be able to use string variable type in Python. Let's start. Python community prepares some documents called Python enhancement proposals. The famous one is PEP 8, styling your Python code. This guideline is very important for us to get our code cleaner. Without the clean code, even if you are the best programmer in the world, you cannot achieve anything, you cannot get an interview, or you cannot get a job. So for that reason, in each of my tutorials, I will give brief introduction to PEP 8 guidelines for naming conventions and other styling things in Python. So let's start with variable naming today. So in PEP 8 guidelines, they tell us that never use lowercase l because you cannot distinct L from uppercase I. Also never use O because it is similar with 0. Also uppercase I because it is similar with lowercase l. Actually, do not use single characters for naming variables at all. If you are using a loop or something like that, you can use lowercase I or J or K. It doesn't matter. But as long as you will use this variable in your code, do not use single characters for variable names. Variable names must be descriptive, but not too long. You can write customer_name, but you cannot write my website's customer name, blah, 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 because it will be like mess in your code. You cannot manage those things. You should be the balance point between the descriptive and not too long. So in Python, we have constants like in any other language. Name them uppercase. In this way, other coders will understand that it's a constant. In both constants and variables, use underscores for separating your words. Use lowercase for variables, uppercase for constants. Do not mix them. Do not use something like here data types. It's not a good convention. Let's see in our code. These are the correct variable namings. When you use customer_name, it's a good convention. You can just put spaces just before and after equal sign, then assign a string to this variable. It's a good case. You can, what else? We can use data types. It's a descriptive and it's a short one. Also, we can separate these elements by putting line breaks. We have to do that because Python limits a line with 79 characters. You have to break the line after 79 characters. So there are two conventions. Both of them are acceptable. You can just tab this one or you can just leave it as at the beginning. It doesn't matter. You can use both of them. But while separating these elements, just put line break after comma. Otherwise, it will be confusing. It is not recommended by PEP 8 guideline. You have to put line break just after comma or semicolons. So what are the wrong namings? Do not start variable names with numbers. It is not allowed. It will throw an error in Python. Start with letter. Sometimes they use underscores for starting a variable name. We are going to discuss that in further topics because it is some kind of like private variable naming and under functions. So for now, just start your variable with a letter. Do not use mathematical operators in your names because it will throw errors like here. Loop, subtract, initializer. It search for loop variable and initialize variable to subtract those from each other. So do not use operators like plus, minus, or multiply or divide or etc. Any other modulus or any other thing. Just use alphanumeric characters. Do not start with numbers and use underscores for separating words. Also, you can use camel case, but it's not very common. Unless you need to use them, do not use them. So I don't have an example for that because I do not recommend camel case. It looks stupid. In this way, it's better to read and better to separate from other things. So we said that all the names, all the variable names and constant names has to be in either lowercase or uppercase. Do not mix those letters in between. Another thing, do not put spaces after the square brackets or any other brackets that you have. Do not put spaces between these things. You can put spaces after comma, but otherwise do not use spaces for anything. We are going to see all of the spaces in our coding examples. In Python, we have different data types corresponds to real data types in our life. Python has internal classes for structuring the data. So for text data, we have string data type in Python. For numeric data types, we have integer, float, and complex data types in Python. Also, we have sequences, list, tuple, or range. Also, we have hash maps, which are very useful for performance programming, dictionaries called in Python. We can just assign a key with a value and call that key. There is also sets. We have set and frozen sets. We have set data type in our lives. In math classes, you already know, and you can just union them, or you can get the difference between them. You can just do various operations on those sets. Also, Python has this data type in itself. You can do those operations in Python too. There is Boolean data type, which is true and false. We have also binary data types, byte, byte array, memory views. So we are not going to go in deep of these binary types in this beginner tutorial series, but we are going to discuss them in further tutorial series. Like in advanced, we are going to use some manipulations on bytes and byte arrays. Also, we are going to use memory views for performance programming. So let's start with string data type and learn how to work with string in Python. Let's open a command prompt and start Jupyter Notebook. I have created a folder which contains all the tutorial files. Also, I am uploading my tutorials, Jupyter Notebook files on my GitHub profile. Link in the description. You can just go there and download these files and use them. Let's start with string data type. I have already created some codes here. We are going to discuss these codes, run them to see the results. If you have like outputs in this screen, you can go under the cell, all output, and clear. It will clear out all the output. First, I have two variables named example string 1 and 2. We have hello world 1, hello world 2. We're going to describe these variables into Python. So there is no output because we just assigned some variables. Let's print them out. First one is printing a simple string. We have assigned a value and we print it out. Also, you can use print like this to print out multiple variables. It doesn't matter if they are string or integer. It will decide the type and convert it to string type. Also, using a comma here will provide us the space between two variables. There is no space at the beginning or at the end of this. Defining a string, we can use double quotes or single quotes. It doesn't matter, but when you use double quotes, use them in all of your code. When you use single quotes, use them in all of your code. Do not mix them inside one Python file, like assigning one variable with double quotes and another one with single quotes. It won't look good. So printing operation on string is like this. The print is also used for any other type of variable. You can just print out the variable's assigned value with print statement. What do we have in strings? Strings has a lot of cool features in Python. We can join strings by using plus sign. There is no assigned string for space. We didn't assign single space to any other variable here. We are just using it for one time, so it will just create this joint string. We are going to print out that joint string with some identification here. So what else? We are joining our string, example2 string, this one, with spaces. What is it gonna do? all of the strings are lists in Python. It is gonna put spaces just before each character. So when we print out this one, it will print out every letter with a space. So here we have the same result with this one, and here we have spaces for each character in our example string 2. So we have replace operations in strings. We can replace a word or a character in a string with another character or a string. Also, when we do this operation, it will be in place. It doesn't affect our real string. It won't change the world with Mars in this string. We have to assign the variable. Like here, we have to assign this variable to this one. If we want our change, our replace be permanent, we have to assign that. So here we are changing L character with X's. It will change all of the L characters inside our example string 1 with X's. Here we just want to change only 2 L characters with X. So when I run this code, first one here, it will change world with Mars. And here we are printing out the example string. We done the replace operation, but it's printing the real value here, first assigned value. So here we just changed all the L characters with X's. Here we see 3X and here we see 3L. It just changed all of the characters, all of the L characters with X's. Here what happened? It just changed 2 L characters with X. We just gave 2 for replace. So in replace, we are using old string, new string, and how many characters do we want to change. You can give 10 if there is no, there is like 3 characters in this example. It doesn't affect your solution. When you just write 10, it will run. It won't check if there is 10 L characters inside the string or not. So if you want to change all of the characters with another character, you can just do that, or you can change the whole string with another thing. So we can do search operations in string also. We can just search if it begins or ends with any other specific character or word. Here we are checking that if our example string 1 ends with world space 1. So it ends with that. And here we are checking if it ends with world. So this will throw false because it's not ending with world. It's ending with world space 1. This will return true. What else we can do? We can just search for a specific word, or a character in a string. It will return us the index of this character, the first character of our given word or a character. It will give the index inside example string 1. So here, if it doesn't find the given string or a character inside the string, it will return -1 because there is nothing inside that string looks like banana. So let's run it. Is example string 1 ends with world 1? True. Is example string ends with word? False, because it ends with this. Index of word in example string 1, 6. Let's check it if it's at the 6th character. So 2, 4, 5, 6. Is it like this? No, because it starts from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Indexes always start from 0. Remember that. In Python, all of the indexes starts from 0. Here, index of banana in example string 1, -1, because there is no banana inside example string 1. We can also count characters in a string. So we have another example string here, example string 3. There are some monkeys, lions, birds, and pythons in the jungle. So the length of the whole string, if you want to find the length of whole string, you can use len with parentheses. Inside, you can put your string variable and it will print out the integer number of characters. Here, we can just use count to count some specific word or character inside a string. So we are counting the commas inside this string. So how many? 1, 2, 3. There will be 3. So when we print out the results, the whole string is 63 characters with spaces. It counts also the spaces, and there are 3 commas in the string. Case operations on strings. We can give lowercase strings like here Python signs, uppercase string, string, YouTube, mixed case strings like with the capital initials of the words. So what are we going to do here? Is lowercase string is a lowercase. We can use is lower method on this string. We can use also is upper in a string. Also, we can convert these into lower or upper. So let's try them. Is lowercase is a lowercase? Yes. Is uppercase is a uppercase? Yes, because all of the characters are uppercase, all of the characters are lowercase. Is mixed case string lowercase? Hi there. All of them are lowercase because we use lower function with this string. It's true. When we use upper with that string, all of the characters are uppercase. So it's also true because we are taking the method is upper and the other one is lower. So removing spaces in strings, we have to do that because most of the time our inputs will have some spaces at the beginning, at the end, or multiple spaces between the words. So we have to clear them out. How are we going to do that? First, we define these variables, space at the end, space at the beginning, and space on the both sides. Our method is strip. The main method is strip. And if you want to do this operation on the right side, like here, you use rstrip. If you want to do it on the left side, you use lstrip, like here. So let's do this operation on all of our variables here and see the results. So what we do here, we strip the text from right. We just want to erase the spaces or a space on the right side. So on the right side, do we have spaces here? No. On the left side, it's still here because we only strip or remove the spaces at the end. Here we are doing the same operation with the left side. So on the left side, we don't have any spaces. On the right side, we have still spaces like in here. Both of them are having spaces, but here we don't have any space. So it prints out the results as it's given. Also, these operations are done in line at the place of the function runs. It just provides an output and do not change the initial string. We have to assign them to these variables if we want to change the look of this string. So another method is strip. Just removes all the spaces at the beginning and at the end of these strings. Most of the times I use strip to format my inputs because I don't want any spaces at the beginning or at the end of my inputs. It will cause problems for my code to run. This is a very important function for string types. Remember this function. As you can see here, we have print statement, and I also use line breaks for my print operation. Why I did this? Because the print will look like longer than any other code, so it won't be readable. I just put line breaks. So sometimes I put line breaks before comma to just notify myself there are codes before this code. Sometimes I do this, sometimes I just take the comma here and enter like this. It doesn't matter, you can do both of them, but this will not be preferred for most of the users, but I do this. It's my way. You can just change it as the pep guide tells us. So here, how to construct a list or an array from a string. We have a beautiful function named split. Split function uses an input as a character, or you can just give 3 here and it will just split from 3. It won't take the 3. It will just split from there, and we will have 2 elements in our array. One this, another one will be this. But I'm using semicolon to split all of these values into an array, and I will just put that array on my string. Okay, here we have a problem. I just forgot to change the variable. Okay, it won't work because I have to change all of my variables. So what it doesn't work like this. It has to be like this. So voila, we have the list. The type is list, and we have an array with the values inside this array by splitting with semicolon. So we can also just print out like the second element in our array will be 2. Like here, we have 2. So it's an array and we can use indexes. It's a beautiful function for manipulating strings. Here I'm going to show you a magic trick. I'm going to define a dummy string because I need a string variable to show this. It doesn't have any like naming convention or other things. I just wrote these to show you the dir function inside Python, and I just format the whole thing for you because it won't look good if I do not format with the enters. So let's run it and explain it. In Python, dir function, the dir function, will give you all the functions for that data type, all the methods for that data type. So we have some dunder functions. We are going to discuss them in further topics. I'm not going to go inside these topics. You do not search them or do anything. If you want, you can just search them on Python site. So here we have the functions, right? I show upper function, lower function, else strip, or the find function here. You will have all the functions that you can use on this variable type here. So how do I know which function does what? So here we have the docs for our partition, which is a function here. So when I write dunder docs or dunder doc, when I just write this for my dummy string, I gave my variable for the type and I gave my function or method. Dunder doc means for documentation. We are going to examine those documentation on functions tutorial. We have to write some documentation for our functions or our methods. In Python core, they just created these methods with some documentation strings for the explanation for developers. So what does our partition do? All of these code inside my GitHub profile. You can go to my GitHub profile to download or clone these directories or repos. I'm going to put a link for my GitHub profile under this video in the description. So if you like this video, please subscribe my channel and put a like on this video. If you have any questions or any issue regarding this tutorial, just write me a comment. I will reply them as soon as possible. Thank you for watching. Stay tuned for the next episode.